I'm Steel Audrey. I get to open the set for you, or this night for you. And I'm also playing with Adrian later. Who's here to see Adrian? Adrian Glynn. Yeah! How about Jasper Sloan? Yep. Yeah! Alright, I'm Steel Audrey. I'm going to play a few tunes.
I'm here in the studio with Derek Kelly. You can hear him getting his harmonica set up there. He's going to play some songs for us. He's from Vancouver band Steel Audrey, so he's here in the studio. We're going to have a chat with him. He's going to play some songs, and I'm really excited for this. But anyway, here's Derek.
When the darkness comes upon me, and my soul shall forever be at rest.
So that was Meet My Maker from Derek Keller. Derek's here in the studio with me today for episode 35 of the Music City podcast. My name is Vincent Jones. Derek's going to be here for the rest of the show. We're going to chat, and we're also going to have a few more tunes from him as well. Okay. So I'm here with Derek Keller, and you're a member of Vancouver band Steel Audrey.
Yes.
So for listeners, you were on episode 2, of course, of the show, but for listeners who didn't catch that show, can you describe your band's style maybe in a sentence or two?
Yeah, so I guess roots folk would be, kind of where we started, and as time has gone along, it's become a bit more country, and it's evolving into something more genre based than previous, but yeah, like folk roots kind of thing. Just a solo thing. It's a solo project now, and
solo project from now on.
For now.
So do you think you'll go back to being the band again then?
I'd like to hire a band at some point and tour with a band. But for now, it's like, solo touring is just so much easier than hiring a band and paying for an entire band on the road. So right now, what I'm trying to do is just tour solo, gain a fan base in a few different towns across BC and Alberta, and then from there, hopefully establish enough of a following that I can hire a band and bring them on the road with me.
Cool. Now, doing the solo thing is nothing new to you because you started out as a solo artist before you were in Steel Audrey anyway, right?
Yeah. So it all started out with, my own solo folk music. And so I've been in bands my entire life since high school. And, it started off with a lot of rock music bands and kind of came back to my roots as a, folk country singer. And
for sure.
my dad loves that about me.
Maybe you can talk me through it then, because I know that Steel Audrey, you put out a record, your self-titled record last summer.
Yes.
And then you were slated to have another record this year. Now, are you still going to be following up on that?
Yeah. So I managed to acquire a Factor grant, which is basically a government grant to record a full album. So I've actually been, over Christmas, I did a little orphan Christmas in Vancouver. I have no family there, so I just stayed in Vancouver myself and just wrote music. I locked myself in my house, and you can actually ask all my friends. I just went off the grid.
Was it a productive time though?
It was. So I went into it hoping to write 35 songs, and I came out of the holidays with 45.
Wow.
It was insane.
That's impressive.
Yeah.
So 45 songs, how many days over the holidays? Like a week or?
Well, so this is like 45 songs over the span of like 4 months.
Okay. Well, that's still an amazing turnout. I mean, 45 songs.
Well, and when I say 45 songs, I'm talking like song ideas, general concepts. Like I'm talking like a verse, a chorus, maybe.
Well, I was checking out the Steel Audrey website a little earlier on today, and I saw that you had a recent post on there saying that you've got a deadline of May for the record. So that's really putting you under the gun, eh?
It really is. So I got an extension. It's now July.
Okay, good. There you go.
Thank God.
Can relax a little bit.
A little bit, yeah.
So you're playing in Kelowna tonight.
I am. Yeah.
Have you played here before?
I have. I've played. So I'm playing at Streaming Cafe tonight.
Mm-hmm.
And I've played in Kelowna 3 or 4 times. I've also played another band for Adrian Glynn. So I play lap steel for him. We've played O'Flanagan's. So back at Streaming Cafe.
You know Kelowna.
I know it. Yeah.
So you've played as a solo artist, which you are right now, and also in a band, of course. Yeah. Which do you prefer?
That's a really good question. I love both in very different ways. With a band, you have this... it's like this community almost, right? Like, being a solo person, even I'm just talking like in life in general, there's good parts to it, and there's also bad parts. You get lonely, and you don't necessarily have people to bounce ideas off of, right? So, touring solo is exactly the same thing. I find it can be really rewarding, but it's also you don't have that camaraderie of having other people around.
Yeah. As a solo artist, and is it challenging to get feedback on your work when you're coming up with like 45 new songs in 4 months?
Yeah, that's honestly that is the biggest difference between this album and the last, is that this is very like I said before, I've just holed myself up, and I've just written a bunch of songs, and really I haven't performed them for anyone yet. And so, getting that feedback, like the last album was our first album, right? So those songs are written over a span of 5 years, actually, whereas this one is 5 months.
Yeah. Are you apprehensive then to share those songs with people? Is it like, sharing your babies for the first time and hoping people think the pictures are cute? I don't know.
Yeah, no, you know what? It's very much like that. It's funny because I have a bunch of friends that have new babies, and they're all very much, they're always like, have you held them yet? Like, hold them. And it's like, okay, I'm doing it more for them than I am for me. I hope they don't listen to this.
Yeah, hopefully.
Yeah.
Well, hopefully they do, but maybe we'll cut that part.
Exactly.
Derek's here in the studio with me, so let's carry on our conversation with Derek. Kind of changed tack now that you've been solo again. So new record coming out, and I know that last fall you went on a bunch of successful Western Canadian tours.
Yeah.
So is there going to be more touring in the pipeline, or are you just going to kind of consolidate for the next little while? What's the plan for you?
Yes, the plan coming up is actually like, obviously recording this album is front of mind, but I'm also trying not to get too focused on that one thing. I'm trying to keep myself busy with shows, and I find I can get very compartmentalized. If I just record, I tend to just get in one vein of, like you tend to, the way that you play music when you're in the studio is very different than when you're playing live. Like, dynamics are very important when you're playing live. So like playing soft and loud at certain parts in a song. Whereas when you're recording, typically you don't want to do that. You want the other instruments to give those dynamics, right?
Right.
And so I find that based on what I'm doing, I change my playing style. And so I like to keep them both integrated rather than separate.
Okay, fair enough.
Otherwise, I feel like you lose things that you've learned even just over a couple of months. If I'm just in the studio, I find that my guitar playing gets less dynamic and less
interesting. So you've got to keep a very clear blend kind of going on.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Interesting. So with those tours, well, the 3 tours you did, I think it was.
Yeah.
Where was your favorite place to play? What was the best show you guys did?
Oh, this is a good question. I did a show a few months back in Three Hills.
Okay.
This is a tiny little town.
I don't even know where it is. My apologies to anyone in Three Hills.
It's between Calgary and Edmonton.
Okay.
And I've got a friend there who runs the Arts Academy in Three Hills, and he just got me in, and it's just this little theater, and it wasn't even full, but it was a good turnout, and just everyone was really into the music, and I played for 2 hours, and it was just this really intimate crowd that was just really interested in what I had to say. And those are always my favorite shows, where it's just people are there to hear you. And I mean, that might sound selfish, but it's true. Like, I love playing for bars too, but typically in a bar you've got 1 or 2 people listening to a song at a time.
Everyone else is talking or doing whatever,
which is fine. It's a different thing, right?
Right. So the intimate venue's your favorite kind of place to play?
Yeah.
Would you ever like to do any festivals or anything like that?
Yeah, that's in the works right now. Because it's kind of a one-man show, I'm doing all the booking and everything myself, and so festivals are just difficult to get into, and I haven't put any focus into it. But yeah, that's definitely in the works for the next year or so.
Next up, we're going to have another song from Mr. Derek Keller, who once again is here in the studio with me for this episode.
frost on the windows, there's frost on the doors. It's minus 45 outside with the wind chill 54. No, I ain't never seen the likes of such a Manitoba winter before. Well, I had to feed the horses, the dogs don't feed themselves. So I dressed up like an Eskimo, though it didn't seem to help. And if Jack Frost is the devil, then Manitoba must be hell.
So that was the Manitoba Jack Frost Blues from Derek Keller. Let's get back into the questions here. What piece of work are you most proud of? What song or album? Well, I guess you've only got the one with Steel Audrey.
Yeah. On that album, my favorite song is Pocket Watch.
Okay.
Pocket Watch Patrick. That song was written over a span of 3 years. I had a very difficult time with that song.
So it was, once you got that out, it must have been, was it like a relief?
No.
How did you feel once you'd done it after 3 years?
I feel as though that song's not finished yet.
Oh, okay.
Actually, I feel that way about a lot of my songs. I think that's a very important. I hope most songs are never done.
I was going to say, I think truly creative people, usually you work into deadlines and things like that, but I don't think you're ever truly satisfied. And if you come back 6 months, you might go, I'll change this and I'll change that. So nothing's ever kind of done and finished with it. There's always more that could be done.
Yeah. And especially with that song, I've actually found myself with this new album. I'm like, I really want that song on the album. And I want it to be totally different. And I want it to be like really country, like just a really country song, which it's not on the last album. And I know it's like a faux pas to put the same song on an album, but I'm just like, I personally like that song, and so I almost want to, you know?
Well, I think if it was changed enough,
if it was different enough.
Different enough, you could get away with that.
Yeah.
But that's your call, obviously. I'm trying to give you advice on what to have on your album.
Yeah. And when I say it's a faux pas, I mean, I can do whatever the hell I want, and no one's going to say anything.
That's true. Eric, what's the best compliment you've ever had on your music? Maybe after a show or something?
Good question. Actually, I'm gonna take it away from after a show, and I'm gonna say my dad sent me a text message. Or actually, my mom sent me a text message the other day about a new song that's gonna be on the next album, and she said he had come home at lunch hour and I'd sent it to them, and he'd taken a listen, and I guess he had tears in his eyes.
Oh, that's brilliant.
Yeah, you know, like stuff like that, and a lot of the songs that I write, like, you know, I write them with a certain audience in mind, and this song is almost like I shouldn't say almost, it's a hymn. And so, you know, like I grew up in a tiny little Christian town in southern Manitoba.
You grew up on a farm, didn't you?
I did, yeah. And so this song is very much it's reminiscent of my childhood, and it's very I guess it's full on, like, it's a Christian song, really, you know, and it's just interesting to those kind of reactions are exactly like, that's why I write music, you know, like that's why everyone does it, right?
That's brilliant. So let's talk about your roots a little bit. Would you say that your upbringing is probably the biggest influence over your music? Yeah,
I would say so. I mean,
more so than a typical a particular artist, or
I would definitely say that. For myself, I grew up listening to, you know, country music, and my dad always had the radio on, listening to, like, he was a big Christofferson fan, right? So Christofferson's a massive influence of mine. But, you know, even more than Christofferson, I would just say that, you know, my mom is a good musician. My dad's a terrible musician, but he has a love for music that is unparalleled to most people, and so, like, that combination is definitely, I would say, what's been my biggest influence. And I don't think there's such a thing as tone deaf. I think it's just, you know, I couldn't sing on key when I was 14, not for the life of me. And I played in bands, and I ended up singing backup vocals because no one else could. And that kind of led to me going like, okay, well, I wrote this song, maybe I should sing the lead vocals for it. And so I've done that. I started doing that a bit, and also I was like, I really enjoy this. I need to be a better singer, though. And, you know, so I think it's desire, and it's also like just hard work.
You're totally right, because I think that with anything, hard work gets you very, very far.
Totally.
And, you know, sometimes that can make up for not a lack of talent, but having less talent than someone else.
Yeah.
So just take me through that though. So if you were unable to kind of sing on key at 14, how did you develop into being a singer?
Oh, that would be my mom. My mom would tell me when I was singing off key. And I couldn't hear it at first, or like for many years I couldn't hear it. And then, you know, she was just really honest with me, and she would always be like, yeah, you played well, but, you know, you're off key at certain points. And I had a problem with always being flat. And so she would always be like, can you hear that? You're flat. And I was like, no, I can't. And so she would make me sing for her, and she would tell me every time that I was flat. And all of a sudden it was like, okay, I'm starting to hear it. And then once you can hear it, then you can fix it, right?
Yeah. It's pretty clear that you have a strong relationship with your parents.
Yeah. I do, yeah.
That's brilliant. So Derek's got me feeling all warm and fuzzy inside with his kind sentiments about his parents. I think that's great. Anyway, we're going to have another song from Derek right now.
Found myself walking the streets of another city that I didn't know. I was tired and hungry and cross as a sailor, and I needed to get out of the cold. I spotted a place called Old Edith's Saloon, where she poured me a bitter stout. She said, boy, that'll give you hair in all the right places. She offered a smile. I gave her a frown. I said I wasn't looking for company, and that my wallet was nearer to dry. I could tell that she was lonely and looking for someone to share a drink and a smile. So she poured me another.
That was The Troubadour from Derek Keller. I enjoyed that. That was great, Derek. There's the real Johnny Cash kind of influence there. You can really feel it. What are you passionate about outside of music?
Football.
Yeah?
I love football.
Who's your team?
Winnipeg Blue Bombers. Yeah.
Okay. I'm not big up on football, so I can't really make a comment there.
That's fair.
I'm a soccer fan,
Yeah.
if you will.
Yeah.
So I can't say too much. I can't kind of go into conversation. It's weird when someone brings up a sport. I can usually talk about it, but I know nothing about football.
Yeah. No, it's especially Canadian football. Even Canadians don't like Canadian football.
So that's the CFL then?
Yeah, that's the CFL.
So are they a good team, your team?
No, they're terrible. That's the thing, is that when you pick a team, you got to stick with them. Oh,
totally.
Right?
Absolutely. I mean, it kind of amazes me out west. There's so many people who support, here's something I know, the Rough Riders.
Yeah.
Saskatchewan. And I guess there's a lot of people from Saskatchewan here, but I always kind of scratch my head because I'm like, well, BC has a team, right? But
they do, yeah.
Like I say, I know nothing about football, so I can't really comment, but I always notice that's the one team I know. I guess I know the Lions as well, BC Lions.
Yeah.
Oh, there you go. Maybe I know more than I realize.
Yeah, you got it. Toronto Argonauts. Right?
Oh, yeah. I don't know that one.
Everyone hates them.
Okay, good to know. Look at me getting an education.
Yeah.
Music City Podcast. Now, Mr. Derek Keller, I've got a few more questions for you before we release you back into what you could call reality. So if I was to put you on the spot and ask you to name the best Canadian artist of all time, musician,
all time.
Who would you choose?
Neil Young.
Yeah? That's a good choice. I would have guessed you'd pick Neil Young just because of the style of music you play, but it's always good to know.
Yeah. Well, going back to the babies and my new songs, that's what I'm focusing on right now, and so that's where most of my energy is going. And I like to talk about that stuff the most, I guess. Right now, I'm focusing on this one song called "Till the World Caves In," and I'm trying to write a third verse for this song. And it's kind of the concept behind the song is that basically if you have love, you can do anything, right? So love in your heart is kind of the idea behind it. And typically I write a lot of negative lyrics, and so I'm actually finding this album is kind of going in a different direction, and I'm a lot more hopeful, but also kind of angry in some ways. Like I've got this one song on the album that's going to be almost not really a protest song, but more of a, like a kick-ass song. Like, if you feel a certain way, do something about it, right?
Mm-hmm.
So this album's going to be a lot more positive, which is an interesting spin for me, I think.
Well, that is interesting because, and I have my own feelings on this, but let's throw it to you. Do you find it easier to write from a place of maybe negativity or, let's say, despair versus a place of intense joy or happiness?
Definitely.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that's the case for most people, I think.
I think so too.
Daniel Romano, a guy from Toronto, a country singer, he's got this song called A Losing Song. And basically the lyrics are, it's really easy to write a losing song, right? And I think that's totally true. Like, it's very easy to write a sad song as opposed to like a good happy song. There's not a lot of good happy songs, and quite often they can come across as cheesy and all that kind of stuff, right? So it's harder for sure.
Right, and I think we'll wrap it up. But I've got one more question for you before we finish, and it's a bit of a fluffy one. But describe your ideal Sunday for us, if you will.
Okay.
From the moment you get up, what you have for breakfast.
Yeah. I don't have breakfast. I have coffee. Coffee is breakfast.
Black coffee.
Black coffee.
Good
Yeah.
call. Good call.
As my father would say, don't ruin it. I would wake up, have a cup of coffee, probably sit down with my guitar, just play a little bit, just let whatever come. If that means writing a new song, great. If not, that means like playing through some old songs or practicing a bit. Usually I just let it flow. Whatever happens, and then this is what I used to do as a kid. Is the sun used to shine into our living room window, and my dad and I would lie down in the sun and just like have a nap in the sunshine.
That's awesome. Like a cat.
Like a cat. Yeah. And then watch NFL football all day.
I knew football was going to come into it on a Sunday.
Yeah.
That's brilliant.
Yeah.
Well, thank you very much for your time, Derek. I appreciate it. And good luck with everything and figuring out your next little phase here. I'm sure everything's going to go great for you, though.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
So that, once again, was Derek Keller. What a great guy. I just want to thank him for his time. Really appreciate him joining us here in the studio, playing brand new tracks for us. Really enjoyed it. So thank you again to Derek. And I just want to let you all know that you can find Derek's music online. Once again, his band is called Steel Audrey. And you can find them online by going to www.steelaudrey.com.
I wrote this for my dad. We were talking about death and all this kind of stuff. My grandma died about 1.5 years ago, and at the 1 year mark, they had gone to go visit her grave, and it was this unmarked stone, and it was just kind of depressing, but also my dad had some interesting thoughts about it. And one of the things that really stuck with me was that even though you write these things on your grave, it doesn't really matter all that much. Like he said, most of them said will never be forgotten, which probably isn't true. 500 years from now, probably forgotten. That kind of thing. So I wrote this song called "Back to the Earth." When I die, spread my ashes far and wide, back to the earth from which I came. When I die, my body will decay, back to the earth from which I came. When I die, won't you lay me low? Pray to the Lord for to save my soul, or my ghost may wander and toil in vain. Let me rest in the earth from which I came. When I die, spread my ashes far and wide, back to the earth from which I came. When I die, won't you sink me down 'neath the muddy river on the skirts of town? Let that peaceful current carry me home to a grave forever unknown. When I die, spread my ashes far and wide, back to the earth from which I came. When I die, don't you write on my stone the sentiment left for the rain. But if you must, won't you keep it plain? I've gone back to the earth from which I came. When I die, spread my ashes far and wide, back to the earth from which I came. When I die, my body will decay, back to the earth from which I came. Let me rest in the earth from which I came.